forest is quiet. No birds sing, and all of the trees are still. A warband of highborn unconquered creeps through the underbrush, as silent as a mouse as they stalk their prey. A lone orc with a bow and quiver walks noisily through the brush up ahead, with his back almost foolishly turned to the warband. As they keep up with their prey, the highborn enter a clearing that the orc has seemingly led them to. The forest remains silent, but there is a heavy stench in the air. As the humans look up from the brush, the odor's source, strung upside down in the trees, are the blooded and tortured remains of the bodies of the lost villagers that they were sent out here to find. Blood and viscera still dripping from their mutilated, almost unrecognizable remains. Fear begins to set in the group. Those of weaker composure, now on the verge of breaking formation and running for their lives back into the woodland. As for the veterans, they are all too familiar with what is about to happen. A loud sound of a twig snapping comes from the other side of the clearing. Standing there in the open is the single hoople archer who the highborn followed to this glade of death. The humans ready their arms. They shout furious war cries as the lone orc and his few comrades who now emerge from the bushes look on. As the blood of their fallen drips down onto their heads, the air is now thick with the stench of death and fear. The highborn charge forward to avenge their fallen comrades, in doing so, unwittingly charging straight into their doom. Before they know it, several small groups of Chickad emerge from the brush, striking and withdrawing at lightning speed, armed with jagged, venom-dripped spears. They encircle the Imperials within the glade, pinning them into an impossibly tight formation. As panic begins to set in, the warband tries to retreat the way that it came. Vicari battle mages strike at the legs of the fleeing highborn, addling them with foul magic. Their comrades, having no choice but to leave them behind as they beg and plead for help. Just as the highborn think that they have escaped, the clattering of skulls and bones from the Packad charge headlong into their ranks, dealing the killing blow. Almost as soon as it began, the chaos is over. The few Imperials that escaped, now haunted by the forest, where the trees whisper only one name: Druj. The Druj are orcs who dominate the lands east of the Empire. Historically, they have been enemies of the Highborn, the League, and Dawn, fighting with the Empire for control of Holberg, the Barons, and Rykos. In recent times, they have also moved to threaten Bracaliand, Ferunin, Semaholm, and Zenith, with one of their greatest bastions being the territory known as the Saran Grave, which lies just to the east of the Barons. They are the most notorious of all the Imperial enemies, infamous for their cruelty and treachery. This reputation is not confined to the Empire. Their name is a byword for treachery, even among other barbarian nations, most of whom also seem to consider the Druj to be far beyond the point of redemption. The Nation. The Empire sees the Druj as irredeemably immoral and wicked, but the truth is far more complex. No other orc nation is as ruthlessly dedicated to achieving their objectives, or more ready to pay the price for their victories, as the orcs of the Malum. Each time they are defeated, they come back stronger and craftier. Each loss, a lesson they employ to push them ever closer to their ultimate goal. As long as it benefits the nation in the long term, the Druj will use any tactic, no matter how distasteful others may find it. Poison, disease, treachery, ambush, dark magic, torture, wholesale destruction. All are simply tools to be used as needed to ensure success. These cruel orcs turn all of their cunning to expose and exploit the weaknesses of their enemies. Weaknesses like overconfidence, complacency, compassion, virtue, faith, honor, and pride. They enjoy leaving badly injured and crippled enemies alive, so that their opponent's compassion and sense of honor will saddle them with the wounded, poisoned soldiers who must be protected and cannot fight. They lure the overconfident into ambushes, or into overextending themselves, so that they may be cut off from the main body of their forces. They capture holy relics, respected heroes, symbols of pride and faith, and defile them utterly, in the sure knowledge that angry opponents will make bad and reckless choices. From birth, the Druj are taught living creatures are defined by their weakness. The weak exist to be exploited and manipulated by the strong in pursuit of victory. Fear, in particular, is a weakness the Druj wield with masterful expertise, cowing their victims and terrorizing their enemies with equal gusto. Druj will seek to inspire such dread in their enemies, as they will have won the battle before they even come to fight. The weak will bow before them, while the strong will seek easier prey elsewhere. Their society is tiered on perceived weakness. Powerful clans expect deference from their lessers, who in turn do their best to twist and manipulate those slaves, servants and allies beneath them. A vast and terrible web of fear and cruelty extends about the Druj lands. These orcs live by the saying that you cannot betray your enemies, which they claim the Navarre stole from them. Bitter experience has taught any who deal with them that an agreement with the Druj will only last for as long as it benefits the Druj more to keep the deal than to betray their word. Deals with the Druj often become a cat and mouse game to see who breaks their agreement first. Many Imperials have met a tragic end because they either assumed that this time the Druj were not tricking them, or because they assumed that they saw the trap, missing the other traps nested within. 5 things to know about the Druj. Fear is a weapon. The surest way to dominate your enemies is to make them afraid of you. The ruthless are the victors. Compassion is a weakness that can be easily exploited. Exploit any weakness. Seek to create an advantage if you cannot already find one. Cunning and innovative. The Druj are always working to plan, but if this fails, they will come back to make a better one. Do not suffer fools. They do not tolerate the complacent, the reckless, or the selfish. What the Druj are not. Chaotic stupid. The Druj are ruthless and unimaginably cruel, but it is always for a reason. Savages. The Druj are callous and brutal, but far from uncivilized. Their knowledge of herbcraft in particular is known to be superior to that of the Empire. The Arkads. The most promising young Druj are recruited into one of the 5 Arkads, each of which operate their own lodges throughout Druj lands. Those who are chosen face a dangerous initiation rite, a mix of Druj mysticism coupled with powerful narcotics, prepared for them by the Temple. Not all the warriors who take this rite survive. Membership of an Arcad confers status and prestige on the new recruits, and brings them closer to the centre of power in Druj society. The Temple run the lodges, providing the members with potent herbs and brews for their spiritual rites, and giving out instructions and orders sent for them by their masters, the Buruk Temple, the rulers of Druj society. Like the Druj clans from which they are drawn, each Arcad has their own unique totem creature, a venomous reptile, bird, insect, or other beast. Members of a lodge train to fight together on the battlefield, and frequently employ tactics that emulate a particular trait of their totem creature. The animal is also upheld as the perfect example of a particular trait favoured in battle by the Arcad. The Temple ensure that members of the Arcad have the best weapons and armour available, along with their banners and shields. These are often decorated with a stylized representation of the Arcad's totem creature. In battle, their different fighting skills tend to complement each other, and most of the Druj armies are built around groups of warriors drawn from each Arcad lodge. The Packad. The orcs of the Packad are always well equipped and better armoured than other warriors of the Arcad. These brutal fighters may wield any weapon that suits their purpose, but all wear the heaviest armour that they can get their hands on. Some lodges keep slaves who can forge fine weapons and armour for their warriors, but others take theirs from their defeated foes, which can give the unit a ramshackle and incoherent appearance. They dress as fearsomely as possible, using body parts, flayed skin, bones and skulls as decoration. A favoured ritual among the Packad is to smear their armour with blood before the battle, a practice that has led to the Packad being known as the Bloodied. In battle, the Packad are often directed to provide protection for a het commander or another notable Druj on the field. Their devotion means that they are quick to throw themselves into harm's way to ensure the survival of the one they have been ordered to protect. If no protection is needed, they may be used to secure and hold key objectives, but they can also act as a potent, heavily armoured shock unit that can smash into enemy lines or eliminate exposed high-value targets. With this in mind, the Packad are often held in reserve until the enemy is already weakened, and the leader is ready for them to strike with brutal force. The Packad embody the aspect of the black-hide beetle, their armour and weapons reflecting the creature's thick, chitinous plates and sharp mandibles. These beetles are found in small social groups that, when threatened, will form up around the dominant member of the group to ward off predators. Chicad. The Chicad are elite skirmishers. They harass enemy formations many times their size, picking off lone individuals, slowing the enemy, and forcing them to spend valuable time, resources and energy tending to their crippled and poisoned comrades. A Chicad force will often feign engagement with a foe, only to break and flee at the first sign of resistance. If all goes to plan, the distracted enemy is then taken by surprise from a flank attack from another Druj force. The leaders of the Chikad are known to be devious tacticians. They often conceal themselves in the undergrowth or watch an engagement from the tree line, directing various elements of their force from relative safety. Large forces of these skirmishers generally tend to break up into smaller groups, assaulting enemy lines from different angles and with different tempos. Even when they are outnumbered, this strategy can make it hard for Imperial forces to bring their full might to bear on any individual group of attackers. Chikad units vary greatly in their appearance and the equipment which they carry, and they are among the most adaptable of all of the Arkad lodges. Whilst they favour medium armour, some groups will tend to wear light leathers or padded jackets to allow them to stay fast and mobile, while other units will don chainmail vests and plate armour on their limbs, turning themselves into a heavier force that can overcome weaker foes more effectively. Where possible, their Tepal provides the Chikad with poison to smear on their weapons, so that even the smallest wound has a chance to kill or incapacitate their enemy. The pack-hunting razor skink is the revered totem of the Chikad. These lizards are fast hunters whose hides are festooned with bony blades, barbs and spiny projections. They chase down prey much larger than themselves, slashing at vulnerable bellies and legs, slowly wearing the animal down until the pack is able to begin feasting on the exhausted creature. The Hoople. The Hoople fulfill a pivotal role of the Druj forces, operating as both forward scouts and skilled hunters. They often operate as a vanguard force of archers, slinking along the sides of a battle to unleash shot after shot into the ranks of the enemy. Sometimes they try to bring down key heroes or vital support troops. They especially target healers, knowing that their loss can sow panic among the enemy. Whatever their target, they avoid direct engagements where possible, constantly on the move. They always endeavour to flank the enemy, or to draw them into ambushes, and as much as possible remain in close communication with their commanders. On campaign, they may be called to operate away from the army for weeks at a time, and so strive to be as self-sufficient as possible. As a result, all Hoople are adept survivors, capable of avoiding the enemy left to their own devices. Most carry herbs or potions provided for them by the Tepal, and adopt a distinctive style of dress intended to allow them to move unseen through the wilderness. More so than other Druj, they favour natural-coloured, open robes and ragged cloaks that help them hide in an ambush. The totem of the Hoople is the Death Stinger, a deadly insect found in the Eastern Barrens and the Malum. These large red and black vespids can grow to the size of a dove or sparrowhawk, and are commonly found in small groups. Brightly coloured, fast in flight, and practically fearless, a pack can easily overcome any unwary human. Travellers in the areas that they frequent are known to flee as soon as they hear the distinctive low-pitched buzzing that the creatures make. Moving in small groups, these oversized hornets hunt down their prey, darting in from just beyond reach to deliver vicious stings before flying out of harm's way once again. Their barbed stingers tear skin, and their venom thins the blood and causes the heart to begin beating faster and faster. Depending on the size and constitution, more than half a dozen or so stings is usually fatal, as the heart literally explodes in the chest, or the prey expires from massive blood loss. The bodies of their victims are left where they fall until the natural process of rot and decay have made them more palatable to the vicious territorial killers. Vicari. Those Druj that demonstrate magical aptitude, who are not claimed as apprentices by the powerful Gulai, are usually inducted into the ranks of the Vicari. This Arkad draws on the aspect of the green forest scorpion, weakening, poisoning and entangling their foes. They favour hit-and-run tactics, combined with a fast assault and a swift retreat before their lack of armour and resilience can be used against them. As a Vicari gains status, they will seek to craft a set of mage armour to protect them in battle, embellishing it with all manner of scorpion symbols, bright green splashes, and the preserved chitin, pincers and tails of their scorpion totem. If they survive long enough, the orc may add an elaborate headdress that takes on the shape of a scorpion, with pincer-like cheek guards and a tail which curves up over the top of their head. When deployed, a unit of Vicari fights in two ranks. The front rank, known as the Claws, is comprised of arcane weapon users who can cripple their opponents as well as harry them with weakening spells. The second rank, called the Tails, then use their magical staffs to entangle their foes and ravage them with venomous magic. The Green Forest Scorpion is just one of the dozens, if not scores, of different scorpion species found in the Malum. These fast-footed creatures are very aggressive and strike without provocation, delivering poisonous stings that slow or even paralyze their prey. They tear at their victims with their razor-sharp claws, inflicting bleeding wounds before retreating. They are particularly single-minded. A green forest scorpion has been known to pursue prey for vast distances following their initial attack, continuing to claw and sting at a fleeing prey, waiting for it to finally expire from blood loss, accumulated venom, or terrified exhaustion. The Khalad. In some ways, the Khalad are the most feared of all Druj. Even warriors of other Arkads tread lightly around these single-minded killers. All the Arkad take their orders from the Buruk Tepal, but it is the Khalad that the rulers of Druj society employ when they wish to openly discipline their subordinates. The Druj do not punish failure that could not have been foreseen or averted, but those whose failings bring defeat will soon meet with the members of the Khalad. Executions or torture are brutal and carried out in public, providing an object lesson of the need to avoid repeating the mistakes of the condemned. In battle, the Khalad operates separate from the main body of the Druj forces. They can often be seen stalking through the woodland after lone foes, or descending on enemy soldiers who have been left behind by their comrades. The lucky ones will receive a swift death. Those less fortunate face an agony of torture before they return to the labyrinth. A fallen Highguard scout might have their legs cleaved off as they lie on the ground. A Dornish knight-errant may have daggers driven into their flesh while having poisons poured into their mouth as they scream to their comrades for help. These murderers will often taunt their foes by hauling fallen comrades to their feet, tying them to trees and lashing them until their skin is eviscerated before dealing the killing blow. While cruel, these brutal murders are intended to serve a purpose. By tormenting their prisoners, the Khalad try to provoke their enemies into rash and costly attempts to save the lives of their friends, allies, and loved ones. The Arkad take the coiled shrike as their totem. This terrible creature is not a bird, but a snake that lurks in the trees, waiting for prey to pass by. Believed by some scholars to be a distinct relative of the jaculi, native to the tropical jungles of the far west. When the moment comes to strike, the snake uncoils its body to leap from the branch. Only the most skilled Tepal can save those bitten by the terrible fangs from an agonizing death. The shrike's necrotic poison causes the victim to swiftly rot while still alive, and is said to be one of the most painful experiences imaginable. Victims of the coiled shrike often beg for death long before the poison takes them, or take their own lives to escape the unspeakable torment that the venom is said to inflict. Herbalism skills. The elite Druj warriors who train with the Arkad lodges work closely with the Tepal. Away from the battlefield, the warriors often help to gather and prepare valuable herbs. As a result, any member of the Arkad who shows aptitude is given limited training by the Tepal, learning how to treat and staunch wounds sustained in battle. While they will never match the abilities of a fully trained physic, they can use this training to get other warriors healed and back into the fight. In battle, the Tepal provide the Arkad with limited supplies of true vervain to heal the wounds of their comrades. The Druj armies feature a number of powerful characters who provide support and leadership to the troops, and fill out roles not performed by the Arkad or the common warriors. Leadership. The Druj are ruled by the Buruk Tepal, a coterie of highly skilled apothecaries and poisoners. These individuals, who are apparently fierce rivals, but work together to ensure the Druj is to survive and prosper. The Tepal are their agents and primary servants, carrying their master's orders to the rest of the Druj. They exert an iron control over the Arkad, who are dependent on the Tepal for their sacred rights. Those who cross the Buruk Tepal face death, either from poison or more directly at the hands of the feared Khalad. The Empire has rarely fought a member of the Buruk Tepal on the battlefield. Their leadership appears to be political and spiritual rather than military. Indeed, although there are usually Tepal present in most Druj battles, they rarely take the lead. In battle, command is given to a Het, one of the powerful leaders of the many Druj clans. The Tepal, who are present, are usually there to provide crucial herbal support, and more importantly, to ensure that the wishes of the Buruk Tepal are carried out, and most ominously, to report the details of any failure. The Het. The Het are battlefield leaders of the Arkad. Each unit of Arkad has their own Het, chosen by the warriors within the Arkad. A good Het is not always the best fighter in a clan, but the orc who displays the most devious mind and tactical acumen. Knowing when to flee from a fight and when to save the lives of those beneath you is the trait that will win a Het the praise of their Arkad. Their position is secured through demonstration of successful raiding, displays of skill, cunning, or willpower. and the support of the shadowy Buruk Temple. The Het get the pick of any spoils, and as a consequence, usually have the best magical items. At the very least, they are likely to possess magical armor and weapons appropriate to their Arkad. While the Het are appointed by the warriors they lead, the Arkad are not democracies. Once the Het is appointed, their warriors are expected to follow their instructions to the letter. The Buruk Temple keep a close eye on the popular Het, expecting them to exemplify the Druj values of cunning, expedience, and ruthlessness. The Temple. The Temple are masters of herb lore, practitioners of physic, and the apothecary arts. Some concentrate on providing powerful potions and blade venoms to the Arkad, while others devote their talents to providing battlefield healing. They can easily be identified by potion bandoliers, surgery tools, and pouches of herbs that they carry. The Temple have a great deal of independence compared to many other Druj, and are free to serve on a battlefield as they see fit. Some embed themselves within the Arkad, guiding the Het and supplying the warriors with narcotics and potions. Others roam freely, using their abilities when they believe they will make the most difference. These herbalists are highly regarded amongst Druj warriors. All of the Druj in an Arkad will look out for and protect the Temple who fight alongside them. A handful of Temple serve as direct agents to the Buruk Temple. Serving on a battlefield is one of the best ways to attract the attention of the Buruk Temple and achieve this prestigious station. These favoured few sometimes conceal their status, preferring to remain anonymous, the better to watch the rest of the Druj society without detection. As a consequence, most Druj assume that any Temple is a secret agent for the sinister powers behind their nation. Cicatrix. Whilst the Het lead the bands of Pakad and Chikad onto the battlefield, the Vicari are usually led in battle by a Cicatrix. These individuals rise from amongst the Vicari mages, marked out by exceptional cunning and magical proficiency. They are often older veterans of the Vicari, or former tutees of the Gulai, that understand the myriad of ways magic can be used on the battlefield. These seasoned warriors often bear scars from their past engagements, and are sometimes referred to as the Scarred Ones, in contrast to the Bloodied, a common epithet, or the Het. In some cases, a Cicatrix will ritually scar themselves before a fight, their faces becoming a gruesome mass of scar tissue and jagged lines. A particularly few sadistic Cicatrix will have their followers paralyze their foes before drawing poisoned blades down their cheeks or across their foreheads, the tainted weapons often leaving a lasting reminder of their encounter with the Vicari. Instead of focusing solely on incantations like their fellow Vicari, the Cicatrix turn their attention to the study of a particular realm of ritual lore. They particularly favour rituals that will deliver curses to their foes. They are most commonly to focus on spring and night magic, but will also look to winter, especially for those who desire a deeper repertoire of curses to draw upon. The Temple often bestow magical items or potions that enhance the ritual mastery on the Cicatrix, and they are sometimes equipped with paraphernalia that can assist them in casting greater numbers of useful rituals. In some instances, The cicatrix may instruct favoured apprentices among the vicari that they lead in ritual magic so that they can help their leader perform more potent rituals. The various Arkads that make up the elite warriors of the Druj form a fighting force unlike any in the world. Their unique tactics constitute a formidable fighting force that truly can win battles in which they are surely outnumbered and projected to lose. All of this stemming from the feared reputation that where one Druj may be visible, several more are bound to be laying in wait, just out of sight, just out of reach, ready to strike and spring the trap when their opponent pushes one single step too far.